This is the most useless lens I shot within a year or two. Definitely is the one lens that you need to get. Hey there, my name is Thomas and today I've got something really special for you, and this time I mean it. It's something super special. It's the TT Artisan 250mm mirror lens. Up front, I'm honest with you, I love this lens, but there are also a million of reasons why you should not get one. So I'm super thrilled again. Let's have a go. In your hand, this lens feels very, very well made, as all these TT Artisan lenses do. It's a full metal construction. It's a typical mirror lens, so there's a huge focus ring, and what it does, it just moves the entire front element. Let's take off the cap. It moves the entire front element with a second mirror back and forth, and that way they get down to 2 meters without the lens extending a lot, so that's super handy. From the front you see the big secondary mirror in there. There's nothing else, no aperture, no electric contacts, no autofocus, nothing. Just very basic. Typical TT Artisan. And I'm going to show you the M42 mount. Screw and screw and screw, like in the old days, with a Pentax Spotmatic camera. M42 screw mount, not T2, very important. And yeah, you can have any sort of M42 adapter to your mirrorless camera, or you just use a classic M42 camera like the Spotmatic. It will just screw on. So that's cool. That's the TT Artisan 250mm mirror lens. This lens comes with a plastic snap-on lens cap, which is a really good idea. For some reason it's a little bit wobbly and sometimes it comes off in the back. So I love snap-on caps because they're just super practical and not like screw-on lens caps that can be pretty annoying. But this particular one is not the best I've ever seen. There's room for improvement. Disclaimer, this lens was provided to me by Vitopal. That is a one-stop photography equipment store. That's how they describe themselves. And they are also an authorized TT Artisan dealer. So pay a visit to the store. I put the link in the description below, and many thanks for your support. You always have to be super precise with your focusing. The slightest amount of movement on the focus ring and you're totally out of focus, so beware. And the other thing is, I'm using a camera without IBIS, and with such a focal length you're prone to shake. So I always set it to 0.002 of a second, at least in daylight. And if that really doesn't work, then I sometimes set it to 1/1000th of a second, and I try to avoid any longer shutter times. So if you've got a camera with IBIS, you're very lucky. Another very abstract motive. Again, 250mm on APS-C, as in this case on the Fuji. 375mm full frame equivalent and no zoom, that sort of forces you into a certain perspective. You really can only take super close-up shots. I find it super interesting. If you are up for a one lens one day challenge and take this lens, then you're really brave, but maybe you don't get a lot of shots that work, but maybe you get just one real keeper, and this lens is about 95% of the shots are maybe overdone, weird, or you maybe don't like them so much, but the 5% that are spot on, you won't get with any other lens. And now Takahiro is taking a picture of me with this lens, a full body shot, and I'm going to show you where I have to stand. I have to stand here. That is like, I don't know, 20-30 meters away. So again, super telephoto lens. Sometimes the bokeh doesn't look so special, it just looks like maybe a standard telephoto lens. Again, you never really know how it works, you have to try it out for yourself. Of course you're watching Tom's Cameras, so there has to be a history part in this about the lens technology. So mirror lenses became a big thing in the 60s and 70s because they were super compact. They have a super long telephoto length, they are kind of affordable, and people I think back then used them maybe for documentary stuff or maybe private investigators because compact, you know. Today we don't need them anymore because traditional lenses are also pretty compact these days. Think of all the kit zoom telephoto lenses, for example, they're not much bigger than this. And this particular one, it's a 250mm lens that's really a short length, focal length for a mirror lens. Normally they are 500mm or even more. Minolta made one in the 70s, and it's a collector's item that really fetches high prices today. And I reckon that TT Artisan was thinking about the Minolta lens when they created a 250mm, not a 300 or a 500. This lens is 380 grams without the adapters. It's an M42, it's not T2. Many mirror lenses are T2, which looks similar, but it's a totally different connection. This is an M42, so you can adapt it to any sort of a modern camera. And it's pretty hefty for a 250mm lens. But I think it pays out because the quality is so good. The mechanical quality is fantastic, and also the optical quality. So again, one of the best mirror lenses I know. This is the most useless lens I shot within a year or two, but also it's the one that I love the most. So there are several reasons why you should not get one. Number one, if you just want a telephoto lens that's cheap and compact and it does the job, then get a kit telephoto zoom lens with autofocus and walk away from this one. This is super not for every situation. Number two, the bokeh. The bokeh is love or hate, and it's super extreme. It makes these circular rings. I love this so much, but there are also shots that just don't work with it. So again, walk away if you don't like that effect. And number three, there is no zoom, there is no autofocus, there is nothing that you normally want in a telephoto lens. If you want, you know, people buy telephoto stuff to take birds, animals and stuff like that. And then you need autofocus, and this doesn't do it. So again, walk away if you need a lens that gets the job done. Now I want to show you the close-up performance. So this lens focuses down to 2 meters, which is good for a 250mm lens, but that comes with some certain, well, you will see, it's a bit special at close-up photography. You see that ringy thing there? How far am I? Maybe 3 meters? I told you depth of field is really shallow, but at 2 meters it gets insanely shallow. So I think I'm now at around 2 meters. Yeah, you cannot stop down, that's the problem. I will show you the pictures I took of some nice little blue damselflies here in Cologne. And that was kind of frustrating because you can't even get the damselfly in focus at a 3.8 sort of depth of field. As you see with the second picture I show you now, that was taken at f8 with a traditional 200mm lens, and then it's just sharper. But again, I had a really frustrating experience taking these damselfly pictures, but the 1 or 2 that worked out, they may be really cool because again of the background blur, the bokeh, these special rings that look like little diamonds or something. Super cool. So it might be worth the hassle to take pictures with this lens also in close-up photography. And now we come to the good part. For example, this thing is super sharp. I've never seen a more sharp telephoto mirror lens than this one. Still, I get that a good standard lens that uses refractive lens elements will be even sharper than that. But as far as mirror lenses go, this is definitely one of the best that I ever shot. "95% of the time that your picture doesn't turn out really sharp, it's user error. It's either the shutter time was too long and you got some blurring, or you didn't focus properly, or if it's a close-up shot, you maybe messed up with the depth of field on your main subject. Like I told you with these small damselflies, the wings are maybe in focus, but not the head and stuff like that. But apart from that, the lens itself, it's really, really sharp. One other thing to keep in mind, if you shoot something really, really far away on a sunny day like today, it also might look a little bit unsharp, and that's because of the atmospheric stuff going on, you know, diffraction or whatever it's called. The stuff that causes fata morganas if it's really extreme. It will blur your telephoto shot at long distances, so sometimes that's also a reason why a shot is maybe not as sharp as you are hoping for. Another thing where this lens really excels is all sorts of chromatic aberration. Mirror lenses are always really good in that regard because they use mirrors. But there are also some glass elements, and in bad quality mirror lenses then you still get some color fringing. Not in this one. This is like apochromatic, super free of any color errors. And also contrast, which is a problem with many mirror lenses, is pretty good in this one. So again, as far as mirror lenses go, this is technically one of the best I ever shot. This thing has only one aperture and it's called f5.6. In terms of geometry, it's more f3.8. I mean, look at the size of the front lens. It's a 67mm filter thread and it's a 250mm lens. So if you do your math, that's f3.8. I reckon they call it 5.6 because of the big black central obstruction where the second mirror sits in. In terms of light gathering power, the exposure time that you need, or the ISO, this actually is f8, so you need a lot of light to shoot. And now in sunlight it's no problem with the digital camera. This lens also works on analog cameras, and then you need high-speed film or maybe a tripod. You cannot stop down as with every other mirror lens, so your depth of field, again, that's like f3.8. So keep in mind that even on pretty distant subjects you often have a very shallow depth of field. Time for the verdict. So this definitely is the one lens that you need to get when you already have got all the lenses that you need. So if you've got a normal telephoto lens with autofocus and stuff, maybe that's boring at some point. You want to experiment, you want to get something unique and new, then get this lens. I'm really serious. It's super cool. It's absolutely not an everyday lens, but it doesn't want to be an everyday lens. It wants to be something special. It wants to recreate a formula from the past, this mirror lens thing. It wants to recreate the bokeh of this sort of lenses and all that, and it does it really well. I will show you a few pictures that I shot on a full-frame Sony camera. This lens doesn't vignette. This lens has pretty high contrast for a mirror lens. This lens is ultimately sharp for a mirror lens. They won't get any better than this. And the 250mm focal length is really short for a telephoto mirror lens, which is also handy because those 500mm things, yeah, they may be just too extreme in a lot of cases. So I can only highly recommend this lens for that kind of photography, the artistic, the experimental part. Just super cool. And that's it for today. So I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe found it even useful. If you did so, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. If you've got any questions or comments, use the comment section below. I love to read all your comments. I will happily answer every single one of them. So have a great time, live long and prosper, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.